Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Sunday Night Live with Jonny Lipsham. And it is November 17th here in the UK. It is just turned November the 18th. But for you guys over in the United States and Canada and all that area, it will be still November 17th. I'm a future boy, and so is everybody that lives this side of the Atlantic. So anyway, just get myself comfortable. How are we all? Hope everybody is doing well. Today's show is brought to you by a failing power supply unit on my computer. So we may crash at some point because we have crashed twice today already. So if for some reason the stream goes off without warning, that'll be why. So just to give you the heads up. So, don't put anything in the chat other than to, just say, you've gone off. And I will know I've gone off anyway because my screen will go black. And everything will restart itself. So hopefully that will not happen. But it has happened a couple of times a day. And I think my power supply is probably on the way out. I've had this computer since 2014. So it's had a good innings. And I'm hoping to get some more years out of it yet, maybe another 18 months or so. I'm probably going to have to switch out the power supply though, because I think that's pretty much what the story is. When I go and look in the event log, it basically doesn't give me any information as to any hardware that's failing or anything like that. So I'm pretty sure, therefore, that the issue is not failing hardware. I'm pretty sure it's the power supply that is on its way out. So there we go. That's the fun that has been today. And it's my daughter's birthday on Tuesday. She is going to be 10 years old on Tuesday, so we are trying to get everything ready for that. And as usual, we're kind of running a little late maybe with that. So I'm going to scoot over to the chat and see who is here, and also see who was first in the door. Let's go up and see, and it was Dwayne who is first in the door, and he says, "I can't believe I'm first today." Well, there you go. That's awesome. Ken Moss was second, and then Kyle came in and left. I'm fairly confident he's back now, though. Mike Neighbor is here. He says, "I missed my wrench." Yes, that was from your other channel, but we can fix that. Don't worry. Do not worry. Do not worry. I'm pretty sure I can fix that if I can remember how to do it. Let's see if I can find you. Where are you? Where are you, Mike? Hang on. Let's make sure I get the right one. Ow. This does it. I press that button. What does that do? Alright, there you go, Mike. You should now have the blue wrench. You may well have to duck out and come back in, but you now have the blue wrench. Yay! Let's see. Ken Moss, straight in with the $5 donation, and I haven't even started yet. This is just the preliminary chat. We haven't actually started yet. Live Pop Guild is here as well, popping by. Gotta tuck a renegade chicken away in bed for the night. Renegade chickens. Marxist chickens. I'm only kidding. Mika is here as well. He says, nice to be here. Sorry about the gremlins in the system. Yeah, I know. It's just the power supply, you know, they only last a certain amount of time, or so I'm beginning to learn. You know, computers are not built necessarily to last a lot of years. And as I say, I've had this one for quite a while, since 2014, and it has been a wonderful machine. It has been the most reliable computer I think I've ever had. So I'm not complaining too much. Because really it only crashed on me twice on Thursday and then twice today. So that's only 4 times out of the, 5 years or so. So I'm not complaining too terribly much, but it's a fairly reasonable indicator that the power supply is on the way out when it starts shutting itself down spontaneously. So hopefully it will not do that to us tonight, will you? You're not going to do that, are you? No. Yeah, there you go. I talked to my stuff. Okay, before everybody leaves, because I have just started talking to inanimate objects. Don't you just love failure chips? Yeah. I like mine with salt and vinegar. Don't know about you guys. Let's see, heart-wrenching. I'm not sure whether that's a pun on Mike getting his blue wrench back again. Mike says still 4 times more than should happen. Yeah, the thing that I'm beginning to understand is that, you know, computers crash. They just do. It's just something that they do. All computers crash, whether they're Mac or PC. And I've actually had a lot of success with this machine. The one before it would crash a lot, like multiple times per day. And in the end, I just pulled the power cable out the back of it and said, "Screw you, computer." And that's when I got this guy. And this guy, as I say, has been absolutely flawless for 5 years. So I'm not getting too panicky yet. I mean, when it starts doing it multiple times per day, then, and kind of doing it every day, then I'll go, okay, time to get the new power supply. But so far, so good. Let's see. Mika says, have you checked the phase of the power coming into your computer at the wall plug? See, here in the UK, we run AC, and I don't have power conditioners because we don't really need them, particularly. And everything is surge protected, so it's not, we're not going to have that kind of problem with power surges and stuff. So everything in the studio is surge protected. Mike Neighbor with $20, and he says, to help with your power supply costs. Well, that's very kind and very generous of you. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that immensely. That is very cool of you. Thank you, buddy. You don't need to do that. But I appreciate it nonetheless. And as I say, we haven't even started the show today. So yeah, so I've been kind of like sitting here kind of coaxing and talking very nicely to my computer to make sure that it actually behaves itself. Carl says, yay to everyone donating. Thank you very much. Yes, Renegade, she wants to camp outside every night on high perch. Okay, crazy chicken. John Lake says, here in the background, you see nothing. Well, I'm glad you're here, John, and I'm glad everybody is here today. This is awesome. Just Bob is here as well. I just saw his name fly by in the chat, and Andrew as well is here, which is cool. So we've got a good few people here. There are familiar faces that, going back over past live streams, that we used to see a lot that we don't really see anymore, unfortunately. People like Woodbeast. We don't really see him anymore, which is a bit of a shame. We're using 220 at 50 hertz. No, it's not 220. I think it's 240 here. Andrew Farmer says, have you had Any appearance with the Presonus Eris E8s? Just wondering. I don't have the Presonus Eris E8s. I have the E5s, or actually they're more like 5 1/4 rather than 5-inch. They're 5 1/4 inch. The ones that I have. And no, I don't have any problems. If that's what you meant by appearance, I think you meant problems. And I don't have any problems with these guys at all. I used to have problems with the KRKs. The KRKs used to hum. And here's the weird thing. The left speaker and the right speaker were exactly a minor third apart with their hums. Sorry, scratching my nose. Which is very weird, but there it is. They're exactly a minor third apart. These guys don't make a sound other than sounds that they should make, which is audio coming out of the speakers. We don't get hiss, we don't get hum, none of that, or crackles or pops or any of that. Don't get any of that stuff. It's just nice, clean, crisp, clear audio with no kind of crazy EQ hypes or anything like that. It's not. Then they're really nicely balanced EQ wise, which I really, really like. Let's see. Mike says I tested KRKs. Yeah. The Rocket 5s. They're okay. I know Graham Cochran swears by his. I mean, he did have a pair of Presonus Eris E5s, and he didn't like them. I think he had them for a little while and then decided he just didn't like them. Didn't like the low-end response. And so he went back to his KRKs, and he still uses his KRKs to this day. Each to their own. Each to their own. I just happen to like Presonus gear. Let's see. Ken says, I have 2 free $4.99 Super Chat credits from Google. No idea why or how, but I'll donate more on Wednesday. So far, can only do it on JG's channel. It does say for certain channels only. Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. That's interesting. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before. Let's see. Kyle says, I like my 4.5s. Yeah, they're pretty good too. Mika says, by phase of your available AC power, I mean the phase of the alternating duty cycle of the current. Simply because it switches at 50 hertz doesn't mean that each side of the cycle is equal. Well, I wouldn't know because I'm not an electrical engineer. I am just a musician and a mix engineer. I don't dabble in electronics particularly. Not my area of expertise at all. When I was at school, I blew up the science lab. Quite literally blew up the science lab. So there you go. That just shows you my kind of scientific prowess. For as much as I read and study about various sciences, when it comes to practical application of science, not a good idea. Quite why they put me in charge of the school pyrotechnics team for things like fireworks displays and stuff like that we had. I don't know, because I'm totally the wrong choice for such things, other than I like making things go bang very clearly because I blew up the science lab. Maybe that's why they chose me, I don't know. Anyway, I'm kind of waffling a little bit here. Mike says, I tested KRKs versus Mackies, both 5-inch models, plus the Yamaha and the JBLs, and I went with the Mackies. Now I have the Eris E5s and the Mackie MR5 Mark IIIs, and you want a sub. Yeah, I don't have a sub. My old room, I definitely did not need a sub. This room, maybe, possibly I do, but I really like the bass response out of the Eris E5s, to be honest. And even standing at the back of the room, you get a good low end sound, and even sitting right here in the sweet spot, the low end is actually pretty good, given all the foibles and issues with this room, because it is far from a perfect room. This room is in A flat. My other room was in B flat. This one is in A flat. Interestingly enough, that's kind of like the resonant frequency of the room. I think every room has its own little resonant frequency. Just Bob says, Micah's setup is very slick. I really like how it's laid out. Yeah. Mike's studio is very, very cool. And he's really stripped it down and simplified things nicely, which is great. I try to keep mine simple as well. The setup itself is simple. The clutter is not really. I've got all sorts of crap on my desk at the moment. Oh, Andrew says, I guess I missed it. Did you say something about the RSE8s? No, I didn't say anything about the RSE8s, because I don't have them. I was talking about the RSE5s. Let's see. Ken says, I know some scientists who did that as well. That's very cool. Mika says, AC should be like a perfect square wave. Often the power getting to your house is not. The pulse width has been narrowed on one side of the cycle and larger on the other side of the cycle. Bad for biz. Okay. Well, I didn't know any of that, but I mean, we've been in this house for, let me think now, coming up on 18 months, and I've never had any electrical problems at all. The computer has worked an absolute charm, apart from Thursday and today. So I'm not entirely sure that power has anything to do with it, because I would imagine that we would have had issues, much earlier on, and we just haven't. We just haven't had any real major issues with power or anything like that here. We don't even get power outages particularly. Not even in a thunderstorm. I can only remember one occasion, which would be maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, where we did have a major power outage and the power was out for 36 hours, which was not great for frozen food and stuff in the fridge and stuff. But other than that, no. Mike says, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't get fooled. I got stuff all over the damn place. This room is mine and my wife's bedroom. Ah, there you go. See? Yep. Andrew says they are blowing out the E8s to make room for their newer model. I don't know anything about that. I'll be honest. I know nothing about what goes on with Presonus and their speakers. I'm sure they have new products in the pipelines all the time. I mean, to be honest, Presonus are pretty prolific in terms of actual output of products. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen either an audio hardware or software company that output so much stuff. It's phenomenal. I think they came out with something like 50-something new products last year. That's mental. 50 new products last year. Something like that. That's crazy. So, what is my subject for tonight? Now that we're 20 minutes in and I've managed to talk about very little for 20 minutes, other than my computer has been misbehaving very slightly. I wanted to talk just a little bit about how we handle situations when we're working with clients. And working with clients can be fraught with complications quite often, especially when you are kind of early on in your career. There's a lot to learn, and quite oftentimes the best way to learn stuff is to learn the hard way. Certainly that's been my experience, that I've learned the best lessons that I've then been able to, just apply going forward the hard way. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I just like to learn things the hard way rather than actually listening to people's advice and that kind of thing, because I can be incredibly stubborn. and not easy to be with. Just ask my wife; she'll tell you how easy I am to live with. And if you say, "Hey, is Jonny Lipsham easy to live with?" she'll laugh in your face. No, I'm not. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about how we deal with people and dealing with people in general when it comes to working with them, working with clients, because it can be tricky. Because especially early on, when you're very eager to do a lot of work and you want to build a body of work, so that you can attract more people to your business, and more people to work with you. So you want to build a body of work, and oftentimes the advice is spend the formative part of your career working for free, so that you can build up a body of work, so you can practice, so you can develop working with other people, develop your working relationships with people, start building a regular client base and that kind of thing. Now, the danger is that you can do that for too long. And then you kind of start to paint yourself into a corner as, hey, he's the person that kind of, he doesn't charge anything. He'll mix a song for you for free. And so you create a culture and an environment of expectation if you do it for too long. However, if you do it for a very specific period of time, early on in your career, then you have a chance to build a body of work. And there's no risk to the client. Nothing ventured, nothing gained if the results are less than what they desired. However, if the results are more than what they desired and better than what they desired, then that's a different story. You can start to build a nice working relationship, and eventually you can say, hey, I've got some experience now. I'm my mixing chops are getting better and better. And, I'm kind of in that period now where I'm starting to think about, hey, I think I need to start making a living out of this. And that's kind of the direction I want to go in. And so you need to start thinking about charging. And charging, you probably won't charge a lot to start with. But here's the thing. When you are at that point and you're starting to charge, you and your client need to be very, very clear about what the expectations are. So you have to think very carefully about managing the expectations of your client. And this is where contracts come in handy. There are some templates kicking about the internet, and it's worth having a look and seeing what is a good template, a good fit for what you do. The simpler, the better. Frankly, don't have it, coated and layered. Man, I've got the itchiest nose ever right now. Don't have it coated and layered in lots of legal language. Just have it enough that, it's, if necessary, is a legally binding document between you and your client. Your client is expecting a product, and you're expected to work on and develop that product by a specific time. So, you will be working on their song, you will mix their song or master it or whatever is involved in the job specification, and be clear about what that involves. How many revisions are you willing to do so that you don't end up endlessly, tweaking this client's mix? Because the more time you spend working on your client's mix, the lower your kind of pay rate becomes, especially if you charge per song rather than per hour. See, this is why I charge per song. I charge per song because if I were to charge per hour, then the risk is all on the client. Because the more that the client has me do, the more cost it's going to be for them. And so they don't know what the final figure is going to be at the end of the job. So they can't necessarily budget for it or account for it particularly easily. So I charge per song so that the risk is on me. So the client knows straight away up front what they're going to get. They are going to get a mix of their song, maximum 3 revisions, And if after the third revision they're still not happy with the mix, they have to pay extra until they're happy with the mix. Now, if you have a client that has loads and loads of money, that's maybe not necessarily going to be a very workable thing, because they can still take advantage of you. But plus side is you're still making money. So what I do is, when I get past that third revision, if that happens, and it doesn't happen very often, most of the time it's one revision, and then the client is absolutely happy with it for the most part. Occasionally we do get to the third revision and they're still not completely happy with it, in which case, instead of going to a fixed rate, I then go to an hourly rate. So I then will charge £25, which is, I think, is about $30 per hour, to work on the little bits that they want me to do. And then I document those hours, and then that goes back to the client. Okay, are you happy with it now? This is the extra time that I put into it, so this is the extra that you're going to have to pay on top of the actual per song price that we started out with. And so once we get past that third revision, then the risk goes back to the client, for me anyway. So I set all of these things out so that the client totally knows that after we get past the third revision, that's what will happen. So that there's no surprises for them, no surprises for me. I know what they're expecting, they know what I'm expecting. And I even have a specific point whereby payment has to be made. 30 days after the final product has been released to the client, 30 days after that, I expect to receive payment in full. I take a full 50% non-refundable deposit up front. So if, it's a 10-song album and I'm charging £500 per song, then, it's going to be a lot of money. It's going to be half of that up front. So 5 songs are effectively paid for up front. And then the other 5 get paid on completion, effectively, is how it works out. And so each song has its own 3 revisions. And so the onus is on me, if I want to make the best out of that financial situation, is to get the songs mixed fast and mixed well, so that I don't have to do any revisions, or as few revisions as I can get away with. So this is where, for me anyway, a contract is really important, because I need to be able to lay out what I will do, what my part of the job will be, so that they know what they are getting from me. And then, also set into that contract is what I expect from them. I expect, a certain amount of time to be able to do the job. I expect, the audio files to be at the correct resolution and all of that, and to be, full length, so from 0 through to the end of the song, so that I can line everything up and I don't have to spend ages trying to fiddle out where that bit should go and where that bit should go. So I have certain ground rules about what I expect from them, and then I get on with the job and I try and get it done as fast as I possibly can. Obviously, the more tracks there are in the song, the longer it's going to take me to do, because it's more complex by nature of something that's quite thick and dense in texture. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. But I'm really interested in your views. I'm interested to find out what you think. Even if this is not something that you are interested in doing professionally, you're not necessarily interested in earning money from it. This is just something you do for fun. This is something that you do for a hobby. You like to produce music, you like to mix music, you like to do all of that stuff just because it's great fun to do. And it is great fun to do, let's face it. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. So, that's kind of what I'm interested from you, as to what you think, because, I can learn from you as much as you can from me, and then we will get into your questions, because we've got about 30 minutes left. Let's see. Let's see what we've got here in the chat. I'm going to scroll up. Let's see. Just Bob asks, so your room is A flat. How does that change how you mix? Is there any optimum pitch a room should be tuned to maximize the balance of tone? It's more to do with that every room has its own resonant frequency because of the size and the shape of it, the dimensions, and then, of course, the type of materials that the walls are made from. And, of course, what the next room is adjacent to those walls. So pretty much every room has its own fundamental tone, I guess you could call it. And then some rooms have overtones of that as well, which is even weirder. I've been in houses where I can stand in the middle of the room and it's a G, and then I can go and stand in the corner and you get some completely different note like a D flat. And it's like, that's a tritone. You shouldn't get that. That's weird. And then you look up above you and you find there's kind of an alcove shaping into the roof, and it's all kind of decorative, and you're just like, oh, okay, maybe that's why. It's just something I'm interested in, kind of a little bit. I don't think it means anything, and I don't think that you should I don't think you should try and tune your room. I don't think there's any benefit to that at all. What I do think is that you need to look at what causes that resonant frequency, and if that note is jumping out, then that means in every mix you do, that note is going to jump out. And if that's the case, then you need to tame that. So some acoustic treatment, find where that resonant frequency is being created and treat it accordingly. And it might well be that you need some diffusion. That's one thing I don't have in this room is diffusion. I have absorption, some. I probably need to have some more, to be honest, in this room. I just haven't got round to it yet. But I have enough that mixing in this room is not a problem. And I know my speakers, and I'm getting to know this room very, very well. So I know kind of the issues that are prevalent in this room, including its resonant frequency, obviously. But, every room is going to have something that you just can't get past. In my case, the thing that I can't get past is that mirror over there. Mirrors are wonderfully reflective surfaces, great when you want to look at yourself, or not, as the case may be. In my case, I do not want to look at myself, but, if I ever need to, there's a mirror right over there. But, sound reflects very nicely off of it, which is not great. So, that's just something I can't get past at the moment. So yeah, Mike says I can't repeat what my wife says about me. Andrew says I can't even finish my own work. Maybe if I recorded other people, I would be more inspired and more productive. Yeah, that's possibly. That is definitely a possibility. Yeah. You may well find that you are more inspired when you work with other people, and certainly I highly recommend collaboration, especially when you're starting out. Collaboration is a great thing to be involved with. And certainly, maybe once you're past that beginning phase and you're getting into kind of that intermediate middle kind of period, where you know your way around an EQ, you know your way around a compressor, you know how to get a good, decent, balanced mix, but you're just kind of wanting to extend your chops, then I can definitely recommend collaborating with people, and maybe even, if you're not quite ready to start charging people, then certainly I can recommend trading. Maybe, in exchange for mixing their record, you go and play on one of theirs. There's lots of different ways you can trade. I have done that. Or you can trade for gear. That's something else I've done. I have another new laptop coming, which is part payment for a record that I'm going to be producing. So, he said, hey, I've got a spare Mac. Do you want it? I'm just like, yeah, okay. And he goes, okay, well, why don't we trade? Sure. I can't afford, he's just like, I can't quite afford to pay for a full record in cash, but I can certainly, chuck in this MacBook Pro. I'll have that. Thank you very much. So there you go. MacBook Pro plus the balance in cash. I'm kind of happy with that. It helps him. It helps me. And it means that we keep working together, which is great because it means I get to work on more of his records and we build up a nice little working relationship. It's repeat business. Repeat business is always good. Let's see. Deer Creek is here. Deer Creek Audio, that would be Chris Howard. He says, I have a suggestion. Do the free stuff for your church or similar, or barter system with your first customers. Raising your rates after free can be a struggle. Yeah, it can be. And those are definitely good ideas. Those are definitely good ideas. Find a local church, or, if you're not connected to a local church, find a local church or a local synagogue or something like that, where, they want audio work done, offer to go work with them, for free and to serve the community, to serve your local community, build up a good relationship with your community, whilst at the same time you get to, get those reps in and build up your chops that way. Certainly raising your rates when you've just started charging can be tricky. However, here's the thing, especially if you are just starting charging and you're just starting with some lowish prices, when you raise your rates because you think, hey, I'm actually worth a little bit more now because my skill set is that much better than it was 18 months ago or 12 months ago. I have done a lot more mixes in the last 12 months. I'm ready to raise my rates because I think my time and my skills are worth that little bit extra money. Here's the thing. You may well have some people that you have worked with who'll go, no, I'm not going to pay that. That's too much now. You're charging too much. Now, I'm not talking about when you raise your rates, don't raise them like massively. Don't double them or anything crazy like that. Just up them just a little bit. So if you're charging 150, knock that up to 200. Make it a nice round figure, is what I would recommend. I mean, feel free, folks, to disagree with me, but I mean, that's kind of what I would recommend. Is just steadily inch them up a little bit every year. Every 12 months after you start charging, just up them just a little bit. And, the people that really value what you do and value your skills and value the time that you put into the work that you do for them, they will pay. Even if you raise your rates, they will pay. I have had clients that I have worked with almost right from the start when I first started charging. We're way back in, oh good grief, 2001, 2002. That's when I first actually started charging a proper figure. Before then I kind of traded and bartered a bit and I did free work as well. Because I started actually getting into mixing seriously in 1999, round about there, 98, 99. And so it probably wasn't really until 2001 that I thought, okay, I'm going to start charging a little bit now for my services. And, wasn't a lot that I was charging. That's okay. It meant, I started making some money out of doing this. It did also mean that some of my clients were a little bit low-browed, maybe. But as you raise your rates, if you don't want to work with those low-browed clients that may have a little less talent than you would like, and, working on their projects is a little bit more work than you'd like because the talent isn't quite so there, maybe, and the songs aren't maybe quite so good, Hey, it's all experience. It builds up your chops, builds up your ability to EQ anything and compress anything and make it sound good. But, kind of, as you raise your rates, you will see some of those people drop off because they'll just be like, no, I'm not paying for that anymore. I'm not paying that anymore. But here's the thing. For clients that like that you lose, you gain more, especially as your reputation starts to grow and people start hearing your name. They will start wanting to, they'll start being happy to pay the higher prices. I've inched my prices up every year by a little bit, like maybe 30, 40, 50 pounds every year. And, compared to price rises in a supermarket, that's a lot. But for professional services, I don't think it's that much to bump up your prices by 30, 40, 50 pounds. I really don't. I mean, I know some people that put their prices up by £100 every year. And it does mean that they only work with either really wealthy people or really talented people that are willing to invest in their talent. And those are the kind of clients you want to attract. People that have a lot of talent that are willing to invest a lot of money into making a really great sounding record. Because they think, if I can recoup that with sales, then all is good. Those are the kind of clients you want to attract ultimately, if that's kind of where you want to go with it. But absolutely. Mika says, charge your churches top dollar. They have the money and don't pay taxes. That may well be the case in some countries, but it isn't the case in all countries. To be fair to churches, being in a church, being part of a local church, and being on a church's pastoral team, I kind of know a little bit about that. Deer Creek says, my point is to offer your work as a donation or favor and not for free. Many small churches have $0 as well. That's absolutely true. There are some churches where they have multiple billions of dollars. Multiple billions of dollars. Those are the kind of churches that have like 20, 30,000 members. And they're all fabulously wealthy. And they all wear, Armani suits to church. And, the latest in fashionable ladies wear to church. And they drive exceedingly expensive vehicles to church and all of that. There are churches that are like that. Yes, charge them top dollar. I totally agree in that instance, because there's a church that can afford it. There's a church that has lots and lots of money and can afford to pay you top dollar. I agree. But, there are smaller churches where their membership is maybe only 100 people or less. And maybe they are, the demographics of that church is mostly working class folks. There's not going to be a lot of money in that church, so they're not going to be able to pay you $4,000 per song or whatever. They're just not. So, I think you have to treat people accordingly sometimes. Let's see. A worker's worthy of their wage. Yes, absolutely. Completely agree with that. And Chris says, I think times have changed too. No way I started out working for free back in the 80s. I think it's just to get a foot in the door that you have to do free nowadays. Sad, really. Yeah, I kind of agree. It is to get your foot in the door, which is why you should really only do it for a short period of time. Because, you're an unknown quantity. Nobody knows you. Nobody knows what you can do. Nobody knows what the quality of your work is going to be. So put all the risk onto you rather than onto them. And then may well be that they'll be pleasantly surprised. And they'll be like, wow, didn't expect that. That's awesome. That's amazing. And, that will make them come back to you if they think your work is amazing. Yes, they may well come back to you, especially if they think that your work is amazing and you're not charging anything. But at that point, you see, you can say, I've actually started charging now because I'm getting a lot of good feedback about my work. A lot of folks are saying how good my mixes are, and they're really impressed with them. So I thought, you know what, I think I'm worth charging now. And so maybe some of those people will go, that's fine, we'll pay. We like what you do, we'll pay you anyway. Even though the last record that you did with us, there was no charge. That's okay, we'll pay you, because you're clearly good enough. But you'll get some people that go, okay, fine, no problem. If you're not going to do it for free, that's okay, we're out of here. And those are the kind of people in the long term, those are the kind of people you can afford to lose. You don't want to work with them. People that just want to take what you have to offer for free and they're not prepared to pay for it, when you're at that point of charging and they say, nah, not going to pay, then you just go, okay, bye. You can lose those people. You don't need them. And that's how you grow. And, so to a degree, I think you're right, Chris. Let's see. Let's go back down. Oh, yeah, we jumped a load. Because this laptop has just decided to update the chat. So I saw that there are thousands of comments when I have not even got through half of them yet. So I apologize if I'm a long way behind. I'm not meaning to be. So I'm gonna skip down a wee bit now. George is here. George Matthias, good to see you, buddy. Thank you for coming. Most laws are jokes. Yes, some are, some aren't. Seatbelt laws are not a joke. Gun laws are not a joke. Well, that's a controversial one. Let's see. George says, how do you put your song track info like title, artist, etc. into your CD? So when you play the CD in the player, there'll be titles there instead of track 01. Okay, that's all to do with metadata. Some CD players will read metadays. Metadays? What is a metaday? I don't know. Some CD players will read metadata and some CD players will not. It is just what it is. And it may well be that the one in your car does not read metadata. Especially if it's metadata on a CD that you've burned yourself using a CDR or something like that. It may well be that that particular CD player will not read the metadata off a CDR. It'll only read the metadata off, a proper, that's the wrong word, but you know what I mean, a proper CD. So that may well be your issue. But that said, let's go and take a look in Studio One, and I can show you where you put all that stuff. And that would be in the project page. And I don't have a project, but screw it, we'll make one. So in the project page, over here, you have all of your song files here, and then you put your album stuff there. So album title, artist name there, and then you can put all the other stuff here, including the artwork, and the EAN and songwriter, composer, arranger, genre, copyright year. All that stuff goes into here. But you can also do it on each individual song as well. So you can put in the artist name and all that stuff on individual songs. As well as the overall album as well. So I hope that helps you out there. So when you do the digital release, not there's anything there because there's nothing. If I press that, there's nothing there. There's nothing to burn. But if there was a bunch of tracks here to actually put into a digital release or even to burn to a CD, then all of that metadata would go with it. But as I say, I think it's only really certain file types that get written to a CD that have the metadata that can be read by certain devices. It's not at all universal, unfortunately. I wish it was, but alas, it is not. So I'm sorry about that. That's probably the best I can do with that particular question. Lollipop says, I saw yesterday that many artists of all stripes are offering their services on Fiverr. Yes, a lot of people are doing that. I actually have some friends that are graphic designers that put up their services on Fiverr, and they make a good load of money, because it's all by volume. If you're only charging a Fiverr, then you can just get a whole ton of work, and so you kind of make money by volume. I personally, I'm not interested in that. But, if I was absolutely desperate for a whole load of work, maybe I would. Let's see. Now, this is a great one from Chris. He says, besides recording bands, think if you're using your studio for jingles, create some free commercials and see if the client likes it enough to buy it. That's a great suggestion. So you could definitely go to radio stations and say, hey, I can do radio jingles. Or even voiceover artists, continuity announcing. I work with a few voiceover artists, so I've done a few audiobooks, which is, for me, it's a little bit boring, because I just have to sit here and watch the waveform and make sure we don't clip and all of that stuff, and just make sure that it records well. But for the most part, I'm just sitting here waiting for it to finish, to be honest, or waiting until the artist goes, oh, can we do that line again? And then then I have to do something. But audiobooks, for the most part, if the voiceover artist is really, really good, they're a good actor, and they're a good reader, I just sit here and wait for them to finish, and then I press stop. And that's it. Done. But it is a great little way to make some extra money if you're not mixing records. Get voiceover artists in. Approach TV stations, local TV stations, and say, hey, you probably record some of your continuity announcers in-house, and they probably do, quite a lot of them. But on the other hand, you say, hey, see if you like these. Give them a CD. See if you like these examples of continuity announcing, and maybe they'll let you do a few. What's the worst they can say? No. And let's go down again, because I'm missing questions here. Mike says, I'm just going to stick to doing my own thing as a hobby. Well, that is very cool. Doing it as a hobby is great. There's no pressure. There's no pressure for you to do anything. There's no pressure for you to create anything. You can create when you're ready to create. So I think that's a really good thing to do. Particularly if you find, pressure doesn't actually help you to create. For some people, pressure helps them create, and it actually enhances their creative skills. It makes them work faster. It makes them work harder. It makes them work better for some people. I'm kind of a little bit like that. I often, I say force myself to work under pressure. I often push things away to the point where they become a pressure. It's what I tend to do. And with that in mind, I think I do work better when I'm under just a teensy hair of pressure, where I'm just like, that deadline is looming. Then I actually start to produce some of my best work, because I'm just like, okay, I only have time for one take at this piano solo. I've got to nail it now. So I nail it. And that's just how it works. Whereas if I had still a week to go on that particular piano solo thing that I had to do for a song, I'd maybe do, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 takes before I'm happy with it. So hobbies are good. Chris also says, the issue with working with poor talent is most of the final product isn't good for a resume. That's very true. You want great talent to make a good product, and to show as exemplar. Yeah, that's very true. So you kind of have to be a little bit selective. Unfortunately, I've had the distinction of working with some really good artists, actually, who have got a good amount of talent. Who, yeah, they might not have a whole lot of budget, but they've got a lot of talent. You know, I've worked with local Edinburgh artists such as Bob David Bell, who is very well known here in Edinburgh, but also across Scotland. He's very well known. He's a terrific singer-songwriter. He's also a personal friend, and he has a belter of a voice, and he writes absolutely outstanding songs. And I've worked on a few of his, where I've produced and arranged, and recorded, mixed and mastered his records, and you know, they come out sounding really good. So yeah, and there's a few others that I've worked with as well, locally and across Scotland, who, you know, they've got a lot of talent. And the good thing about working with people that have got a lot of talent is it means that they record well. They write good songs. So a good song performed by a really good performer is going to record well, providing you do your bit well. And then when it comes to mixing, it'll go down really easily, because you're just like, you know what? This song sounds awesome as it is. And you just turn up the faders and it sounds great. Then, you know, you just, I'm just EQing just to kind of make things fit just a little bit better together. And that's it. That's all you're doing. And a tiny little bit of compression. And that's it. It already sounds good. But, you know, you don't always have that luxury. Especially when nobody knows who you are. You don't always have that luxury. So I see your point. And I take your point. Absolutely. Let's see. Yeah, some very good points coming in the chat here, which I'm not going to be able to read all of them, unfortunately. But yes, there's lots of really good stuff here. Lots of really good comments here. Bill Johnson says, mega churches go with the real Church of Christ. I'm not quite sure what that means, but I'll take that comment. Yeah, some really good chat here, guys. And I think I've just spied a donation, but I can't find who it was. Oh, there you go. It's Lollipop Guild. Thank you so much for the $10. That's very kind, very appreciated. Thank you very much, folks. And we are nearly at the end of the show, guys. And I appreciate it a lot. Let's see. George says, can I send one of the songs I composed, mixed and mastered for evaluation? You certainly can. Email an MP3 of that song, high quality MP3, mind, of that song to Jonny at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, and I'd be happy to evaluate it or critique it. I prefer the word critique, but yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, email it to me. I'll email you back, and I will email you back the terms and conditions attached to mixed critiques that I have. That way, you know what you're going to get from me, and there's, you know, goes back to what we said earlier about expectations. So yeah, happy to do that. That would be very cool. Let's see. Lollipop says we must feed our sages to keep them alive. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. That's a very good way of putting it as well. Very cool. That's you guys are the kindest people around, I tell you that. And that is no word of a lie. I'm just going to quickly go up and see if I've missed anything important. Okay, you guys are having a great chat in the chat, which is great. I like it when that happens. So I think we are pretty much all discussed out, to be honest. Lollipop says, helpful discussion tonight. timely and on point. Well, I appreciate that, and I hope that that's helped actually a good number of you make decisions a bit and learn something from, somebody that has messed it up, somebody that has overmanaged expectations or undermanaged expectations. I have done both and ended up with misunderstandings with clients. It has happened. And, either I've lost out or the client has lost out, or, both of us sometimes have lost out. And it's how you manage that and how you deal with that, and how you deal with the persons involved, that matters. Even if there are misunderstandings, even if there are expectations that are not properly managed by both parties, if you handle the situation professionally, whether you're a professional or not, but you have the spirit of professionalism about everything you do, even if you're doing it as a hobby, if you have that professional attitude, it goes a very, very long way, especially if something hasn't quite worked out the way it should have, or expectations have gone slightly askew or astray. If you can handle it in a professional manner, then that's going to stand you in a good stead with that person, even if what happened has gone wrong. Even if the experience hasn't been 100% happy for the client. If you can deal with that in a professional manner with them and with a lot of respect for the client, you know what? You may find that that client will come back and work with you again on the strength of how you handled the situation, whether they fouled up or whether you fouled up. Doesn't really matter too terribly much where the blame lies for the original situation, but if you both handle it professionally, and that, the onus is on you. If the client are coming to you, the onus is on you to respond to them and treat them in a respectful, professional manner and deal with the situation like that. Then, they're going to turn around and say, you know what? This guy is good. This guy is good. Okay, maybe this particular project didn't work out how I would have liked, but this guy is good. He knows how to run a business, and he knows how to deal with a situation when it goes wrong. I can trust him. I can trust him. I can trust that I could work with him again, and it wouldn't be a problem again. That's what you want. That's what you want from a client where something doesn't quite work out. And it may well be you may lose them. And that's okay. If you lose the client and you lose out, that's okay. Because, there will be other clients out there. There will be, and you will have learned a valuable lesson, even if you didn't get paid for that job you did. But if you've taken 50% deposit up front, at least you're not going away from that relationship with that client empty-handed. You've still got 50% of the money. So you got something. Which is why it's so important to take a 50% deposit up front. Because that means that, the client commits financially to the project. And if the project goes wrong, at the very least, you walk away with half the money. You just don't get the balance of it. And that's fair enough. So there you go. I'm going to leave you guys on that point, and I'm going to say a very good night to everybody. And thank you very much for coming onto the show, and a big hooray to my computer for not crashing on me just now. I find that very appreciative. And I'm going to say I was going to say something and I've forgotten what it is now. Anyway, on that point, I'll be back in action on live stream on Songwriting Simplified on Wednesday over at Jonny Gibe's YouTube channel. And then we'll be back here for Sunday Night Live again. And just to say, folks, that the new website is coming. It's going to be awesome. You guys are going to love it. And there's some new courses that are coming as well, which I think you guys are going to dig totally. We've got a songwriting course. We've got a music theory course, beginner courses for both there. And I am reissuing my MIDI Drums Made Easy Volume 1 and Volume 2 courses. So they will be available direct from me for the first time, because they were originally created with Dave Vignola over at Home Recording Made Easy. I am making them available from my new site for the first time. So if you don't have those two, go grab them. And of course, grab the new courses as well when they launch. Launch date to be confirmed in the next couple of days. Probably tomorrow. Tomorrow or the next day, I'll put something up on Facebook, YouTube, everywhere, all over the place. If you're on my email list, you guys will get a sneak peek look at the new site and the new store. Okay? So if you're not on my email list, go and get yourself on it. You'll get a free compression video series as well. And a bunch of tracks that you can mix as well. So go do that, and I will see you on Wednesday. Good night, everybody. Good night.